Okay. Hello, everybody. I hope you are patient with our little fiasco. We welcome Michelle Derricher, who's not here today, but she came onto the screen there in her intro. They're so tricky to me. I am not a technical person, but I do know enough to know that this is Becoming Quantum Conscious. And my name is Bart Sharp. And this is the United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 107.7 and 103.5, broadcasting out of the beautiful city of New Orleans, Louisiana. And also, you can find us on the uprntalkradio.com website, YouTube, Facebook, Roku, and also on my YouTube site, Bart Sharp. Become a subscriber. I welcome subscribers. And I am in France now. I am in a new phase, or I don't know, it's not a phase, it's more like a tumble. I tumble on into France. I work here. I recreate, I do spiritual work, and then I tumble back to Austin and I do all of what I do there. And I consider it paradise. So today we have Kymberly Kind. Hey, Kymberly. How,
Hi, Bart.
it's good to see you again.
Yes, nice to be here. I love coming on your show. We always have some amazing conversations.
Indeed, we do. And yeah, Kymberly is an amazing, uh, I don't want to call you transformative coach. God, there's so many things you can call people: healer, shaman, generally good person that helps people, helps them change and let go of stuff, a family constellation specialist,
Hmm.
family constellation counselor. That be it?
Sure. We can fit that in there too. Yes. And that's what it feels like most of the time is, um we're not really healers. We're more counselors and guides, we're guiding. We're kind of like the wisdom keepers, and we're
Yes.
we've had enough understanding of things to do and not to do.
Yes,
With
and to clarify this to everybody, we are not licensed counselors.
Yeah.
These are professions that we have chosen without official licenses, just like I call myself a shaman. And I do an energy work that's unique, just as Kymberly does that in the field of family constellations and some other things that you do.
Yes. So it's about bridging, science and spirit. It's about bridging the things that we know and we understand that we see physically with our own eyes, and then bridging the things that are more spiritual. What we call spiritual is the things that we do not see with our own eyes. So it's
Mm,
all about frequency and energies and all of that realm that is not seen with our eyes. And perhaps some people might have that gift that they can see energy and they can see frequencies, or they can smell it, or they can feel it. So that's
it,
that's pretty much what we do, is we help guide and manage both what we see and we don't see, so both worlds.
yes, and it's a pioneering type of entrepreneurial thing that's happening all around the world. People going out and doing these things, and of course, people have done this for eons. The seers, and Kimberly lives in Austin, Texas, as I do. We hang in the same crowds, to say it short, and we're just talking about gurus, and seems like that topic has been coming up a lot in the world today, of not really on the headlines as gurus, but it's a lot of the shadow of these people that have been called gurus seems to be very present these days. Would you not agree?
Yes, completely. And we just came about this conversation where I was just, referring to certain clients or certain people that do reach out to me because they are feeling, um, completely unmet with their needs. So, they'll be part of a certain spiritual group or what they call, spiritual group, because it could mean different things to different people.
Mm-hmm.
Spirituality is so vague and so, you know, used in different ways. And a lot of these spiritual groups, either the leaders will reach out to me in the communities and say, hey, Kymberly, we need help. We've been, running into different patterns, into different issues, concerns, and we don't know how to solve it. We don't know how to, um, find resolution. So, being a spiritual guru doesn't mean that you have the knowledge of energy work, that you have the knowledge of frequency work, that you have the wisdom of, the knowledge of the ancestors, the knowledge of guidance. Being a guru, or what people may say, a leader in a field, a leader in a leadership program, mastermind. There's a lot of things that are coming out with mastermind, retreats and all these other stuff that are happening where people are gathering to meet communities, and we need community, we need to find groups, and then they end up feeling lost in those spiritual guru like groups where they're not finding any resolution with the things they're coming with. And what happened most of the times is that it opens up an unhealed family patterns dynamic between the guru, the leader, who then comes into a parentified role. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm missing my parent, I'm missing my authority figure, and I want to play the pattern. And this time I'm going to do it with a person who is the guru of the circle, which is, could be a father figure or a mother figure. And that's what we usually look for, is we always, when it is not healed, we always seek out for that role in people.
We do. We look for people that have something that we do not. And often that do not characteristic is something that we didn't receive from our parents and we feel we're missing sometimes. It has those types of characteristics. We fall in love with these people because they have so much power or charisma, personal characteristics that are really attractive a lot of the times. But we're missing some of those points that we should be looking at and people that we want to learn from. And that's a really good thing. A guru, if we think about that title, is basically a teacher, somebody that has something that we can learn.
Exactly, exactly. And most of the people that do take on that role as well, um, they are also in their family system what we call the rescuer. So they fall
Mm,
into the rescuer pattern. That means, ever since they've been a child, they've been that person that, fix things. They're the fixer. They're the adult before being a child. So they're used to be praised and being, asked to do things, asked to be the fixer. So they have this role, and sometimes it's hard to detach from that role for them. So they'll continue, in their path when they grow up, and they feel like, I'm a leader in helping people. And sometimes it's not out of not willing to help people, but it's just a program that they've been um, put into since they were little, and then they just don't come out of that role.
it really makes you want to ask the question when you're looking for somebody that's going to teach you information and teach you spiritual information or something that you really hold important. It's that question of what what does this person have inside of them that they want to be the teacher? What's their motivation? Uh, and uh, and that's one that you really should look at carefully because I was hearing a radio show on an author that did. We're not mentioning names on this program. That's something that Kimberly and I promised we would not. One name is going to be mentioned, even though this guy has been way back in the 60s, did all of these, one of the first in sacred medicine. And he had all these wild parties, and he had this big group of people. And one lady who been through all of this goes, yeah, I think deep down, it's not that he wanted to teach people, he just wanted to be loved himself.
Totally, yes. So there is a role assignment which every family system has. Um, Many of you may know the fixer, which is the healer, the black sheep, the truth teller, the caretaker, the emotional regulator, and then there's the invisible one in the family system. And most people that do follow the path of gurus were assigned one of these roles from the beginning, and then they only receive love and they only know how to receive love if they fulfill that role.
And you're talking about a pattern that would be in a like a family constellation model, and that person would be playing that role in the family that they were born in.
Yes, completely. So in the family of origin, wherever you're coming out of, so the mother, the father, the sisters, any siblings that you may have, everyone will be assigned a role, and you will start learning from that belief system that you can only receive love if you are fixing others, if you're helping others, if you're giving, um, if you're taking that role of the healer.
Mm. So how does that get off? That sounds like a very noble thing, but somehow, and a lot of people probably do it with a lot of noble causes and humble, and then others maybe not.
Yes.
What
So,
gets them off the path?
so being given that role doesn't mean that you're good at it.
That's a really good point.
So you have to understand what it is that you're good at. You have to understand, you know, most of the times we're giving roles that suit the projector. So whoever is projecting that role into you is actually projecting what their needs are. But it doesn't mean that you are fit for that role. It just means that you're being projected on. So,
Mm.
if I may continue into that role as I grow older and I'm not fit for it, that's when you become a bad guru or so called unhealed guru. And that's when the ego starts battling with your, outside world and inner world, is because your soul is not meant to carry that role. It was just a role that was assigned to you to survive.
Yeah. And some people come really good at it and they start to get a lot of credit for it. But if it's a dysfunctional family, they're not learning the rewards that they should be looking for.
Yes, totally. I mean, most of us in this dynamics of, a child who is healing the parent, because that's what usually happens, is that you learn that in order to receive your needs and your love and whatever it is that you need, you have to be the parent to your parent, basically. So
Yeah.
you have to um, put in the role of, the caregiver, of emotional caregiver. It could be also physical caregiver. I a lot of people have had to do certain chores in the house, or even get jobs, or even do certain things that were not meant for a child to do, but more of an adult
Hmm.
um, thing to do. So when you grow up and you're just processing that as, this is the normal, and you don't look at, well, hold on, it's not giving me what I want, and it's not actually helping people. And that's when you have these weird, unsafe dynamic that is recreated with leaders that are not meant to be leaders, or teachers, or gurus, or counselors, because they're still wounded by some really deep dynamics that happen with their family of origins.
Yeah, like for example, like if you're a kid and maybe you're within a single parent family, for example, and the mom is trying her best to get, keep the family together and they're stressed. They they don't have enough inside of them to, emotionally keep themselves strong and give to their kids and keep a job and do this and do the dishes and cook dinner. And, so maybe the son or the daughter comes in and becomes that emotional support. They become like the partner. I'll be strong enough for you, mama. You don't worry. I'll always be there for you. And all of a sudden they start taking on that role and they become a hero, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And, if you're in that role like that, how, and you realize it as an adult, like you're really spiffy do at fixing everybody up. And how do you evolve beyond that? That's just one aspect of you to be a complete whole person. And a strong spiritual teacher plays a lot of those roles, and they've mastered a lot of those roles.
It starts with the power of the reversal role. So the power dynamic where, one feels powerless, and then the other one is about control or domination. So
Mm.
if you're being heard and respected, you have to be in control. So being in that position of the guru who's in control and in power can lead into, now that I lead the authority, but I don't know what to do with it, but it's just a form of control. Um, it helps the ego, but it doesn't help the leadership. It doesn't help the community. It doesn't help, people who are seeking help, knowledge, and wisdom through them. So
So,
there,
so go
oh,
ahead.
there isn't a real exchange. It's about exchange. It's about, a good leader has to be a good teacher. It has to be an exchange of knowledge, of wisdom, of understanding, of stories. It has to be something that you're giving, you're helping and supporting other people with what they need that you have mastered already.
As opposed to, oh, I'm a super great teacher. I can get you there to that next level to where you're performing at optimum in your job and you're going to make that five-figure income every week.
Yes. And guess
and
what,
they
we're not we're not
and
all
they
meant to do that.
and they're promising stuff like that and everybody's going, oh, he's so great, he's got all of this big energy. And then when they get into it and they start to fail, that teacher often makes them wrong. It's like, well, it's your fault that you're not making five figures, or there's not, there becomes a separation, there becomes a blame instead of compassion.
Yes, and that's when the spiritual bypassing happens, and it becomes like a defense mechanism where, you're disassociating into spirituality, and you're disassociating your role in it, and you're not being in the reality of what you're doing. You're not identifying the truth of what you're selling also. And people
Yeah.
look up to the leader and to the guru that is selling, his $20,000 retreat that guarantees you that you're going to make that much money, by signing up to their workshop. And the belief system that we carry is, grief, anger, shame, fear. So if we're not getting that result, it's because, of us. So the shame is being projected into the person. You're not good enough. You didn't do what you're supposed to do. You didn't listen when you were supposed to listen. You didn't do all the things that you were told to do. And it's minimizing the pain of the other person. So it's also that role of the parent, authority figure, and then the child. So it's kind of the same dynamic going back to, mother child or father child
So,
dynamic.
so what you're saying is that you return the person that's the victim in this that paid all the money and then gets this blame. They go back, they give up because they retreat back to their parent-child relationship. And it's like, oh yeah, I was always the weak one, or oh yeah, I was always the small, and no, I'm not going to get there, and
Yes.
they kind of put
It
in their place.
Yes, it's like unconsciously, we go back into that role play where, it activate triggers in us unhealed wounds where, the guru replaces the mother or the father figure, or it could be a grandparent, whoever raised you. It could have been, an authority figure. So there's always that dynamic between power, control, authority, and then, the little one, which is the child. So
Yeah,
you're going back to that space where you felt as a little child, you're not worthy, you don't have um what it takes to be successful, you cannot make it on your own, and you always need the authority figure, which is the parent, to do things for you. So
yeah,
you become attached to the um sorry, I forgot the word. You attach your personality, your identity is attached to the authority figure, that without it you cannot be successful, without them teaching you, without them being in your energy, you cannot make it. And then it creates an addiction pattern where you keep buying and you keep going to those retreats, you keep going to those workshops, you keep being part of the group, even though it's highly toxic and it's not giving you or getting you anywhere.
yeah, exactly. You really got to ask that question. Am I getting what I paid for? Or am I getting a other message? You know, I, and it has both, to me, it has both sides of the story because I remember listening to a friend of mine who worked with me. He goes, "Oh yeah, I went to this workshop, flew all the way out to Los Angeles and did this 3-day workshop." And he's like 2 days back, return, and he's full of all of this energy from the workshop. And he feels great, and he feels like he can leap tall buildings in a single bound because he's so energized. And it's the teacher's energy that's flowed into him and the group multiplying it. And this little bitty guy that came from Austin, Texas, flew out to Los Angeles, is suddenly bigger than a 10-story building. And of course, 3 weeks later, I go, "How did that workshop go on?" And he's just like, "Well, I don't know. It's just not going well, you know, because they may have taught him tools, but he believed in the energy exchange was going to cure him.
Hmm. Yes, totally.
And and so looking at the tools that you're going to get and the information is very crucial as opposed to the energy of how that person makes you feel.
Yes, completely. So, are they sharing with you the real tools? Are they sharing with you exactly what it is that you need at that time to
Hmm.
be in the position that you wish, or create your goals, or um, obtain your goals? And you can see through the pattern that it's also recreating a family dynamic of, I'm just giving you just enough to keep you here, but not enough to be on your own. So,
Yeah, because
yeah,
they want you to come back.
exactly. So, all of these are emotional leakage into clients. It's about, the blind spots, the things that we don't understand if we don't do the work ourselves, and we don't seek, the healing of the internal wounds. And why do we feel like we need somebody else to do things for us? And understanding the red flags is that if you want to sign up into these types of workshop, you want to do the spiritual work, you want to do all these things, you need to make sure you're giving the tools to do it on your own. You're giving things that will help you and do some work on your own. But if these leaders are only telling you, if you don't do this with me, or if you don't sign up for that, or if you're not in my presence, you're not going to be successful, that's a red flag.
Yeah, exactly. You got to come out for program B, uh, and get the rest of it. Uh, it's just amazing how that works. But also, on the other side is about the student that says, oh, they're going to transfer it to me, as opposed to, no, I need to take this and work it and try to apply it and spend, 10 to 20 times more on the homework aspect of it before I go back to the classroom. And I mean, I think you really got to think a lot about this stuff whenever you jump into this. I mean,
Yes, you do have to think about it, but you also have to understand the work that your leader has been doing or has done, and study that as well, because most of the time, helping others becomes part of avoiding your own work.
yeah, yeah, that's another important aspect. I mean, I wanted to ask you, I mean, because you lead classes in family constellations, which is a modality where you go into family dynamics and do this really dynamic work to do transformative work on not only an individual in the class, but other people. How much did you do and work to get to that place where you could teach a class like that?
I think it took me about 10 years.
Wow.
And actually, it did take me about 10 years, but it was a 10-year period where I was completely isolated into my
Hmm.
inner world. And because I had so many towers after towers after towers that came back to back, you have to be careful what you wish for. And sometimes when you wish for a lot of healing and receiving gifts and all these things, it will take you on a roller coaster. So
Mm.
I had a lot of physical injuries, and that was part of my family patterns, and all the things that I was trying to heal. But also it was part of my learning. These were all the learnings and all the tools that I was gaining through it. And I was off of social media for about 5 years. I had no social medias. I was just focusing on healing. I
Mm.
was, doing a lot of research. I was trying to heal myself. I was trying to heal myself physically, emotionally, and understanding why I was going through all these things. And also, I was trying to understand the patterns in my family system. And this work is not easy and is not quick. So,
Yeah. Yeah. It isn't. And I've done shamanic work and I've done some of the, there was a 2 to 3 year period where I just worked on myself all the friggin' time. And, when you talk to a therapist, they go, oh, well, you have about a 5 year period where when you're completed with the degree and you're out, that you're doing tons and tons of work on yourself while you're seeing clients and you're going through all of this process. And as my favorite author in therapy, Alice Miller, wonderful book called Drama, the Gifted Child, uh, just revolutionizing a lot of therapy work, says every therapist has wounds.
Mhm.
Every therapist goes in to this type of work, and this could be an energy worker or a psychotherapist. They want to heal themselves as part of that process,
Yeah.
and it becomes sincere. They may
Yes.
not start it sincere.
No, at first you're just like, what's going on? Why am I having all these things happening? And then you recognize the patterns, but it's part of your training. And I mean, I say it like that now. It really sucks. Like, this is not fun. It's not fun stuff. So, but it helps you relate to your groups, to your clients, to your community. It helps you relate because we're not different. Being a leader is not being different or specializing in a certain field of spirituality is not making you different than the others. It's just being more aware and understanding a pattern, and
Yeah,
then sharing the tools with others, where you become now the tool holder, you become the wisdom holder, so you can tell people, hey, you're going through this, this is what happened to me, and I can help you navigate it, so you can you know help yourself quickly. And I shouldn't say quickly, because the time will be the time that it needs to heal a certain
yeah.
wound. So it's not about time, but it's really about knowledge and education.
I'd say it's like changing your lifestyle
Yes.
because if you're wounded and you want to get out of it and change, it's a lifestyle change. Whether you're doing an Al Anon program or therapy, or you're doing family constellations, or whatever it is, it takes you through many twists and turns. And this has taken us to a turn where we're past midway the show. And I just wanted to tell everybody that you're listening to Kymberly Kind, and she is a family constellation specialist. Her website is www.itsabout.healing.life. She
It's
does
time
all,
for healing life.
thank you. It's time for healing.life. It's on the ticker that was there, but now it's gone away. I don't know what happened. There we go. Uh, but Kimberly, uh, where do you work at? You travel a bit and you do all kinds of projects. Tell us about that. But before you do, think about what you're going to say. You are on United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 107.7 and 103.5. Tell us where you're at these days, Kimberly.
Yeah, so at the moment I'm in Austin, Texas, and I am leading amazing community. It's Sacred Heart Community, where we're doing workshops. We're doing women's healing workshops. We're doing men's healing workshops. We are doing also Sacred Family Constellation workshops, and we are supporting people on their journey. And I just love doing that. I love following up with the community and supporting however I can. And as a leader in this, I also understand that I have to constantly self examine, self teach, or go to other teachers and other people that support me. I have understood throughout these years that burnout can happen, and can happen easily, especially within these positions if you are holding space for others. There could be a lot of emotional leakage. There could be a lot of blind spot in these areas where, as
Yeah.
a guide, you also need to take that break and to reflect on yourself. You need to take the time and not look at yourself as a hero, because we are not heroes.
Yeah. We're people that are committed to creating stuff. And just to tell Kimberly's website again, it's time for healing.life. And something that, whether it be a healer or a writer that's a spiritual leader, it can be a politician, it could be somebody that I am looking for leadership and guidance. This is the question I ask.
Yeah.
How much are they embodied in their own self-love? What degree have they raised themselves to a higher frequency in that?
Yes, totally. And I think we need to stop judging others and ourselves through that, and just be truthful and be honest with everything that is happening. Um, I'm just gonna do a little call in or call out with my spiritual community, my beautiful spiritual community.
Yes.
I know a lot of people are really trying hard, and I know that, with everything that's happening today in the world and all of these dark, if I say dark, I will say unseen things. What I call
Hmm.
dark is things that we don't see with our own eyes, or it could be secrets. Anything that is not seen, heard, that is coming to the surface is, blind spot. So all these files, all these knowledge that we have, the news, the different internet tools that we have available, that shares with us stories that are not really happy stories, that triggers a lot of people in the world, because it triggers them going back to their own stories. It goes back to their own childhood. It goes back to their own stories on
Yeah.
unhealed wounds. So in our communities right now, we're seeing a very big increase in people that needs more support, people that needs more knowledge, that needs more teachings, that needs more understanding and wisdom with how to deal with these things. So
I so agree with you right now. And I wanted to say, Surrender and Shine Cindy, hi. She just checked in with us.
yes, hi, thank you for joining us.
And you know, I think it's like a crossroads time. This is, I don't want to say it's going to be I don't think it's going to be, you can't really predict the future, but right now we're at a crossroads. And if you're one of those people in that doubt and fear, what should you do? What are some good, I know you've been given some good advice with that. Anything you'd like to add?
Yes, I think that, and I do this very often. I've just taken a little break in the last couple of weeks where, I felt I was burned out from, holding so much space for people. And this time is about reflection and going inside of us. Going inside means just calming the nervous system, calming your body, listening to what it needs, listening to what is your needs, and understanding also, why do you feel anxiety? Why do you feel unsafe at the moment? Why do you feel pain in your body? What is your body communicating with you? So taking a moment, maybe like, okay, this afternoon I'm just gonna sit home, I'm gonna relax, and I'm gonna listen to myself, listen to every pain in my body, in my mind. I am going to sleep extra. Sleeping is good also. So these
Yeah.
are all things that you may be doing before going and, holding space for other people, or just looking into why you're feeling a certain way, finding the answers. I want to also let discuss one more thing is that when um, when you're doing these sorry when a guru or a leader is having these wounds, because that's basically us. I have wounds too that I had to, learn and
Hmm.
not bypass. So I want to make a very strong point that bypassing is a real big issue with most spiritual communities, where we're not allowed to cry, we're not allowed to show emotions. We're supposed to be toxic positive, and toxic positivity has increased the pain in many people. And
Yeah.
to give you an example, I've had a woman who's come and reached out to me, and we've done a lot of work together. And one of the issues that she had, she paid for a 20K um, week long leadership retreat. And during that retreat, she had an emotional, you know, triggering. Something happened. She got really emotional, and she felt like she wasn't supported, and she was told to stop crying. She was told to stop being so needy, not being emotional, that she shouldn't be crying in public. So that toxic positivity of where we have to bypass and not um, let our emotions show, especially crying, and especially sharing our pain, our grief, our sorrow, where we have to pretend like the world is just beautiful and there's nothing emotionally happening.
Yeah, usually that's, it's sad to hear that because so much about spiritual work is seeing exactly what your angst is and the sadness or the shame or the fears that you have that are underlying it. And when you get into a expansive place, like in a workshop or something, that's a lot of times when all of that stuff shows up,
Exactly.
and so therefore, you know,
When you're
that's
sitting
a
at
perfect time.
Yes, exactly. When you're sitting at home by yourself, usually you don't get those reactions. So we're all living in a mirror
Hmm.
world. So we're all mirrors of each other. So the first thing that will happen if you're in a community, or if you're sitting in a group, you're going to mirror each other's wounds. You're going to mirror something that needs to be seen, and it's going to be triggering to you. So holding community, holding spaces for people together will, bring up all of these things that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, exactly. And I wanted to say hi to Jesse. You just chimed in. Appreciate you being here. Yeah, that's to me is such a big part of the process is to feel all of that stuff. It's it's so funny that I'm not really a big crier for myself, but I just get people to like, how deep can you feel it? And let's go into it, and let's feel it. And it's funny when you get somebody like that so intense, they really serve the group often because there's other people that are probably feeling similar things.
Yes, totally. I mean, it's part of your sovereignty. Your sovereignty is feeling your feelings, being able to be free with what you are, with who you are, with what you feel, and not being able to find that freedom in your feelings is compromising to you, but it's
Yeah.
also part of like the power dynamic of control. I control your emotions. You're not allowed to cry. You're not allowed to feel your feelings right now. So these are all toxic patterns that a lot of
Yeah.
leaders, carry on because of what they had lived through themselves, and they're repeating a pattern. They probably were also told not to feel their feelings.
Yeah, and that's exactly how you get out of this stuff is by going into what those feelings are that are more in a visceral sense in your body a lot of the times. You may know the story, but you get deeper into these workshops, and this stuff comes up in your gut in various places. When you do let it go, you get lighter. And then when you get lighter, you get more aware. When you get more
Totally.
aware, more good stuff happens. But it really takes a lot of work, and it's a very, to me, it's kind of like a working class type of attitude. You're down, into deep stuff.
Yes, I mean, if you don't let the truth come out, you are bypassing it. That
Yeah,
is what bypassing is. Bypassing is not letting your true emotions come through, the truth of who you are, the truth of your story, of your perspective, of how you've seen and how you've experienced an emotion or a situation.
yeah,
Everyone is going to have a different perspective on the same situation, but you have to be honest and truthful about what you experience. And once you let go of that, you've opened the door to healing that wound. And healing, that means letting it go.
yeah, yeah. So when you look at some of these workshops that, you know, that maybe not be looking at this stuff, but really promise you this big prize, so to speak. Are there things that when you look at these people putting this stuff out, and some of them are genuine, they really get to some deep stuff in a group setting. Because a lot of times when you get into the deep things and everybody's honest and sincere, it magnifies and everybody gets a big clearing from it. Other people, they're not exactly there. How do you any suggestions in how you tell the difference?
Yes. So the difference is, again, the truth. So when someone is ready to be honest about the true feelings and about their experience in something,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't mean that. So for example, in family constellation work, and this is in all of the healing and all spiritual work, when you're able to say that you are feeling pain because someone did something to you or said something to you, it doesn't mean that you don't love them or that they don't love you. It's just meaning that at that time and that moment, for whatever reason, there was pain that was shared.
Yeah,
And if you're not able to say that or to admit it and you just ignore it, that's a bypassing again.
yeah.
So
As
oh sorry, being
No, go
able
ahead.
to share that in a healing moment or in a community or group, a spiritual community that is supposed to help you and support you in your truth. And being your truth means that you are able to talk about that. And usually, leaders or gurus that are not able to speak their pain, um, that's a red flag.
Yeah, like we're going to go over that. We're going to sail over it. We're going to keep into high intellectual period stuff or other techniques, or we're going to use something that's going to anesthetize it.
Yes, I
And
just
and
want to say
I'm
hi to Jess.
yeah, and all of those things. It's lots of people ask me lots of questions and about, well, should I take plant medicine? Should I, you know, and I say I can't really give you that information, but what I can tell you is that you need to spend some time to yourself and write about what really aggravates you, where your problems are, write about where it came from, how it's applying to your present tense, and most importantly, when you write, feel where it's located in your body.
Hmm.
Where are
Yeah.
you holding it?
Yes.
Uh,
Hmm.
you know, and there's lots of big time leaders that are really good teachers. Let's make that clear. I have my favorites that I go, these people are the real deal.
Yes,
You
I
know,
totally agree with you. And we need more of those.
yeah. And then some of them you go, well, they sound right. Logically, they sound right. They seem to have a good logical message. But when I feel them in my heart, and they ain't got it. They're 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 going for something else.
So one more thing about, actually a few more things if we have enough time, but
Yeah,
um
we got 4 minutes.
all right. So how to understand a healthy leadership, a healthy workshop leaders, spiritual leaders, whatever, and this can fit in all the leadership that you have. But mainly what we're focusing on in spirituality is your leaders integrate both the light and the shadow. Basically, you cannot have one without the other. So if there's acknowledges limits, if there's limits to, one or the other, if there is no self-reflection, there is no encouragement to sovereignty to speak your truth, and there is no dependence to them, like, because speaking your truth removes the dependence that you may have towards an addiction, could be a person also. So, and
Yes.
then also if they welcome feedback, welcome feedback, self-reflection, how do you feel, what's going on, how was that, you have to understand that if you're not feeling that within your spirituality, sorry, your spiritual leader, there might be something wrong there.
Good stuff. Another one I like to end, that they had the humility to admit they're wrong when they're wrong.
Yes, I love that. And they have
There's,
to walk with you, not above you.
yeah, yeah. It takes, you know, there's people in this world who've done so much work that you feel it in them, you know. And when you see somebody like that, you just want to learn whatever they have to learn. I like to give a shout out to Ryan Doomer at Third Eye Cacao in Austin. He has a passion for cacao and health, much like a great spiritual teacher, because he learns everything possible about that product and serves it. So it doesn't always have to be about spirituality to hold that mantle.
What makes it spiritual is the passion behind it. So most people are not meant to all be leaders in spirituality or what we call self-development, but they
Hmm.
they might be leaders of other things, other products, other areas where we need good leadership in all areas. And people mistake the fact that everyone has to be into the self-development group, or they have to be into health and wellness, and they have to be in a certain
Yeah.
category of it, where no, maybe your product that you need to lead, whatever it is that you're passionate about, you will become the leader of it because you're passionate about it.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's a sincerity that comes across there, and it comes from your heart, even though you might be really intelligent on the topic. And that's always good to ask. Is like, where's their heart?
Yes, completely. If the work if sorry, if the heart is not in it, then you're not going to get the best leader. So always question, is your leader, does your leader have the passion for what they're doing and what they're trying to teach you?
Exactly. And we're coming to the end of the show, and I wanted to let everybody know that you've been listening to Kymberly Kind, and you can find Kymberly at www.itstimeforhealing.life. It's timeforhealing.life. And check her out. She's got a lot of wonderful work and experience. My name is Bart Sharp, and this is Becoming Quantum Conscious. You're on United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 107.7 and 103.5 out of New Orleans, Louisiana. Just thank you, everybody, for showing up today, and we wish everybody the best. Kymberly, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me again. I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Me too. Bless you, sweetie. Bye bye, everybody.